Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Welcome back to the channel. If you've taken a break, welcome back. If you haven't, thanks for sticking with us over Christmas. Today we're going to be looking at a new Extilior list. So, if you might remember a few days ago we played the Rantology Extilior list, which was one of the devs that managed to beat us in the Play the Dev campaign. And what we're going to look at here is a slight variation on it. And the reason I've done this is because I don't play as much Extilior as other people do. And I should probably change that. So, a couple of things that we've changed here is I felt like, as much as I really liked Snareling as a 3-drop, it's really useful, I felt sometimes I was just missing a little bit of damage in that slot, so I've swapped that out for Blindsider Eztli. And while Taurian Guardian is actually going up and up in my estimations, I probably want that in most lists, well, quite a few lists at least going forwards. I wanted to try using Stitchy as the sort of the longevity approach for Extilior, and so I've gone for Deadeye as well. So essentially this has got a really solid Maximus, Deadeye, Blindsider Eztli curve, but with options to go around that as well. So if we're defensive, we can drop Stitchy McPatchy, we can drop Snareling, try and sort of hold things back from us. If we need to sort of deal with immediate early units, we can try and drop Shrapnel as early as possible. We've got a lot of variety here. So what we're going to look at is, as is the standard thing, go through the whole list. So Maximus for a turn 1 play. We've got Deadeye here to go for a turn 2 most of the time. In some situations we won't need to, so we won't be able to, so we might need to go for Stitchy McPatchy, but it's probably going to be Deadeye most of the time. Turn 3, we've now got Blindsider Eztli as one option, and then we've also got Snareling as another, so we can switch between the two depending on what is needed in the circumstance. If we need to keep someone away from us, Snareling is great. If we need to kill something quicker, we're going to be going with Blindsider Eztli. Following up, we've got the best 4-drop in the game in my opinion. It is Shrapnel. Really tough to kill, great damage output, fantastic unit, love that. We've got Florio Lancer as a bit of endgame here because we don't have too many Cinder Sinks. So realistically all we've got is Deadeye, Stitchy and Florio. And between those it's going to make it hard to activate Eztli without having a bit more Cinder spend. So Florio helps with that approach on a regular basis. We've got Quetzalli, who is just sort of the go-to. I mean, it says here perennial. I mean, I'd say that's about right. Quetzalli's not going anywhere until those rules have changed. Quetzalli is unbelievably powerful, especially in Extilior list, and now we've got Eztli as well, even better, and our captain of Extilior. So we're going to jump into a few games, see what we can do here. The game plan is to try and be sort of a slightly more aggressive version of the previous list, but with the option of playing defensive and playing slow if we need to. So if we really need, we can go for Maximus, Deadeye, Snareling, hide our captain, and try and slow the game down until we can get something like Stitchy out to compensate for the damage that we're going to take when running headfirst into an opponent. So we've got an opponent quite quickly here, so don't even need to cut. I'll just do my quick usual thing, is that if you've enjoyed this content, please make sure you do hit that subscribe button. I've really trying to push with this channel and trying to get to 250 subs. I'd love it if we could get there, so please go ahead and do that if you've enjoyed this content. So, Plink and Cinder Infusion. Plink is fantastic, Cinder Infusion's kind of good. Escape Hatch is a lot worse now, but still powerful with Quetzalli, and Medical Recall can be useful. Orbital's not quite what we want. I want to try Plink and Cinder Infusion here. Okay, so we've got a fairly short rush distance. We are against a level 0 opponent. So, we're going to just take an easy approach here and just go for moving up and placing a fairly safe Maximus. Probably somewhere like here. And this gives us a good option of trying to get line of sight onto them. They could run back here maybe and try and be defensive, but okay, so this is, that's there, Maximus there. So we're not going to want to move all the way forward if we can avoid it, so we can get further behind this. But if we need to, we can just go to attack the captain instead. So we can get about here. So here's good enough for me for getting Maximus in range. If we get a crit, we're pretty happy. We did not, but that's fine. So here, that is functionally the same either way, because we're going to be able to blink, and it still leaves it 2 damage away from anything else. Now here, Extilior can move, but I think we're actually willing to put Deadeye at risk here and try and block Maximus into place. Because Maximus is one of the scariest units going, so if we can make it harder for them to get to Deadeye, force them to trade some damage onto Extilior, we can potentially keep our Maximus alive and push some damage through here as well. So they're going for 4 Cinder. This could be a Shrapnel would be a good place here, or a Chuck and Go. A Tipu, okay. So the thing with Tipu is we can actually kill that and Maximus this turn, and it's only going to cost us some Cinder. So that's absolutely what we're going to do, depending on where they move. Yeah. So if we can get a shot off onto Maximus here, they've also blocked their Extilior as well. So because we've got 5 damage from our Extilior and 2 from Maximus, we can actually just play it safe here, get as much damage in as possible. We're not going to be able to use our Plink, but that's fine. So here we're going to want to just take these 2 shots and move this direction. So we want to stay out of Extilior's range, so here's about right. And then here, the standard option, and what we need to always remember to do, is to spin and then hit. So spin first, then hit, no attack back, get another shield, and honestly I think we just put Cinder Infusion onto Maximus here. And I don't think we need Shield of Hope because we'd rather save our Cinder for next turn, so pretty good spot. We've taken out every unit our opponent's played so far, and then we've got a good position on them for the future. We're not going to be able to kite too easily, but what we're probably going to want to do is, yeah, so if Deadeye's going to get a shot here, we're going to start kiting back in this direction. They can spin to put us down to 1, but that doesn't really do much in the long run unless they've got Plink as well. So we're going to just try and basically rotate the game back north again. So killing Eztli is going to be a pretty good shot for us here, so might as well go for this first of all. And move up here.
Like my battle mask?
So we don't have a good line of sight onto their Eztli, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it here where it's minimum, like minimum sort of deficit, and we're going to look around and see how we're looking. So with 46% we're likely to hit 1, and that does make a difference in terms of the clock, so... okay. Wow, hitting both there means we can just Plink that down. That was pretty lucky on our front there. We'll keep moving in. Here, honestly, I think we probably just play a Shrapnel behind them. And maybe even just Stitchy a little further back over here to keep us safe for the future. Maximus can move again, but we don't need to worry too much about that. So here they can run up and kill our Deadeye, but we're in a really strong spot to keep pushing forwards. I don't know if even playing Stitchy was necessary. We could have just saved it for more Cinder next turn, but I think next turn we're probably playing Florio and just moving in our opponent. So I do feel sorry for our opponent here being level 0 coming against an experienced player. They have done quite well so far, but again, if this suddenly plays out like a Detonia or something like that, I'm not convinced that this isn't the beginner list. It might just be so. So it may be that we've just been incredibly cruel to this lovely new player. So sorry, Vekek, if you end up seeing this. Broken Vengeance, nice. I do love Broken Vengeance. I feel like he's so close to being playable. Okay, so Beatrice is good to see here. Excuse me, Beatrice is great to see here. It might actually, slow things down enough that they can get back into this. Is this a stasis field? This could be stasis. So at this point, because they've played Beatrice and they got Broken Vengeance back here, our game plan now is just to start chipping away at Extilior as fast as possible. And so that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to make sure we get line of sight onto both. Oh, we've got the crit as well. We've had some really lucky crits, I will admit. And we'll just move back here to stay safe. Keep Maximus in, push damage through. Another one.
Your commands.
So we can move Stitchy a little bit safer here. I actually think we maybe do push through, but I honestly think just playing Florio out is probably just our safest bet here. And just going for the attack. Because one crit would have been helpful there. I'm almost tempted just to heal ourselves, but I think we're just going to push the captain down as quick as possible. And then just Shield of Hope ourselves as well. We want to stay further forward so that Beatrice is forced to stay there. And this way they've still got a really tough route to get to anything, anything consequential. So we can still keep putting what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. Okay, they've got the Healy plant. So that's going to be our next target, is trying to deal with that. But we've got Florio to come out next turn. We're going to be able to damage all of these, potentially killing Beatrice between Florio and Extilior, dealing a lot of damage to the plant. Beatrice can't even move away anymore, so this is a really solid spot for us. The plant's not a bad play. I think maybe playing it over here could have been blocked line of sight for Maximus. It could have made it so that we can't bombard all three. We probably could have done, but I think it gives us a little bit more options that they played them so close together. But all in all, I like the plant, and this does show us that I don't think this is the standard list. I think this is something that they've come up with themselves. Okay, Stunning Shrapnel's nice. Okay, and there's the heal. Excellent. Right, so let's start trying to poke a plant. Weird thing to say, but I think that's what we're going to do. We'll bombard all of them. we can just about move through. So I think what we're going to do is move over here with Maximus, put the Ozos on, and just go for the shots this way. Okay, we did still miss one. So, Sword of Justice. There's not really a good situation here. So,
What is your will?
because Shrapnel got stunned, there's not really anything much we can do. So I think we actually just attack first in case we get a Sword of Justice trigger. Sorry, in case we get a big crit and kill it, and we can kill this with Sword of Justice. No, I didn't think we would. We're not going to worry about trying to heal this turn because there's no rush on that front. What we can do is we don't need to plink this because it doesn't really change anything. So we can actually just plink our captain to heal up. We can move Maximus probably back over here this time. Okay, our opponent conceded there. I think we were going to be able to slowly just tick away at that game until we got the victory. But actually quite well played by Zekek there, considering they're a new account. So I think they should be quite proud of that. Pretty good response. Obviously placing the Tipu without realising that there was enough damage there to kill it was probably a bit of a mistake. If they'd played Tipu more defensively, that could have changed things a little bit. And like I said, the Neck Divine was a good play. There's probably slightly better positioning, but I actually think it was pretty good all in all. So, good game from our opponent. We're going to jump into another one, see if we can find something else to go through. It may be looking at it that we're coming against the same opponent again, but given that sometimes it can be a little bit hard to find games at the moment, we're just going to take whatever games we can get and try and play the best as possible and explain our sort of our mindset as we go. So hopefully you can use the same ideas that we've got in your games with other players as well. So here, Orbital and Status Field is what I'm going to go for because I really like the zoning potential of Orbital. I actually really enjoy Orbital as a assist. Stun is very powerful versus Extilior as well. Recall and Lifeline's fine, but it's not really what I want to do. And Stowaway and Corrosive is probably the worst pairing here now that Corrosive's been changed and Stowaway is still too slow for the meta. So we're going to go for this and see what we can work out. I'm going to just greet our opponent. So
Death has arrived.
I always forget that the greeting is so intimidating that we're just trying to be friendly. Okay, so that's their Maximus placement. So we're going second this time, which is quite a different outcome. So what we want to do, we don't have a movement assist, so we're just going to play Maximus a bit safer here. So we're probably taking 2 here, but what we almost want them to do is move back into this spot, and we can just place our Shrapnel out there to... So they're going to come out here, shoot us, and probably move back where they are. And this will be one of the lessons that you learn very early on as a new player, is not to put yourself exactly in that spot, because, okay, that's good, they're slightly further out. So at the moment they can't move, but if we place a Shrapnel in there, it's going to be even more difficult for them. So here's actually somewhere where Beatrice would be quite nice to have, but they've done a good job of hiding from us mostly, so we've got a slight angle here. Might as well go for it. 45%. Oh, we got a crit, nice. So that does change things slightly, but I think we still want to be... Let's just stay over here. We're not fully out of range, but we're still slightly safer. And here, I actually think just playing Shrapnel about here makes it very awkward for them.
Let's make friends.
Because now Maximus, they have to move Extilior before they can move Maximus. They can still get a good angle out, but this has armor. They can't shoot through here particularly easily. They probably have a line, but they have to move to do so. And Extilior has to move to do anything at all. If they're willing to use this, yeah, this isn't too bad for us at all. It's a use of their Cinder just for damage, and if we can do the same thing back to them, we're in a really good spot. Okay, they have played Eztli. Nice. So we actually are probably going to be... Ooh, that crit is actually quite a big deal. So what we can do here is, depending on where they place Maximus, we might be able to... if I were there, I might be moving backwards. See, this looks like they've actually got a pretty good handle on what to do here, and it also shows how little I understand about playing Extilior, because I think I've just put myself in a situation where I'm going to start losing the race. Okay, so getting that's pretty nice. That, I think, is a misplay of moving there, because now we've got Shrapnel with a great position to get attacks onto all 3 units here. So I think this is actually their first really big mistake, because we can get a really solid shot there.
Good job, Barry.
Missing Maximus is actually pretty awkward. So we want to stay here because it's slightly further away from Extilior. We can still Sword of Justice here. And kill this. So we don't have good angles again. So we've kind of messed this up for ourselves, but again, we might as well take the hits we can look for. We did get one, that's nice. Move in here. Now at this point, saving for 5 Cinder next turn isn't that important, but it does leave us 2 options. So I think that's what we're going to do. And I think what we place, given that Extilior, I can move up this way. So I actually think in that case we want to place our orbital about here to stop Extilior moving right the way into the 2 of us. That might stop him being able to spin. Maybe I could have placed it slightly better. If this is a vortex, okay, it's corrosive. Yeah, I think we might be losing this race, but we're not far off. We're only going to take 1 extra damage on each of these, so that's not too bad. If Extilior moves here, yeah, that's put him into the orbital range, so that's what we were going for here. So now I actually think we're very close to having lethal. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage onto their 11 health captain, and we've got a stun coming up. And Stitchy if we need to. So Maximus is obviously going to take these shots, but if they don't have another unit to play that can deal a lot of damage, we're in a really great spot here. In fact, we've got lethal because they've got 3 coming from orbital. So yeah, so 8, 5, 2, yeah, we should have this. So we're just going to move back here, take this shot with 100%. Maximus has to hit 1 of these. So 1 80% shot. Okay, we got it. So Sword of Justice. That was a lot closer than it should have been. Like, we should have played a lot safer here. But we did have the win. Our opponent played really, really well. Like, that's a marked improvement on how they did the previous round. So I'm actually very impressed to see that. Like, that was a much, much closer game. I feel like that was a game where Stitchy could have pretty much taken it out of their hands. I still can't believe I've only got 3 mastery on Quetzalli as well. To be fair, I know how good Quetzalli is. I try not to play it for that exact reason. I should really have a look at see my portraits and see how I'm doing and work on that again off camera, because let's have a quick look while we're here. So we got 11 portraits left to unlock. Stitchy we're working on now, that's fine. But I don't think any of the others are in our list at the moment. Toner could see it play in this as well. Right, let's go in, try and get a 3rd game. Hopefully we get a different opponent, but if we get the same one, either way. Really well played by Vekek so far. So I'll be happy to play like a best of 3. We've obviously won 2 of them so far, but against a level 0 player, this is a really respectable battle that they've put up. They've really done quite a good job of trying to trade efficiently, and it really does show my weakness in Extilior as well, so hats off to them as well. Okay. So my latest thing with Extilior, in fact with Extilior, with everyone, I love Stim Burst. And because I enjoy Orbital and I love Stim Burst, absolutely what I'm going for. I often am now at the point where I nearly take Stim Burst above Vortex. It's very close.
What is your will?
Okay, so how far can they move around there? Okay, so this is the perfect Maximus spot, because they can't get to it. Oh, we're against a different opponent. We're against CZ555. Okay, so we're against another Extilior player. This is actually the wrong place to place Maximus, because technically he's now trapped. If they place something here, we can be trapped against the wall. We should have left a slight gap, but it just means we've got a really good angle onto their Extilior if we need to, and we can just move in, shoot, and move back again. I didn't even realise it's a different opponent. With Stim Burst as well, we can really close the gap nice and quickly, and if they play a Maximus, we're going to try and just damage that and run away again.
This will be over real quick.
The question is where they move with Extilior, because that can change this quite a lot as to what we do. We'd like to be moving the game in this direction gradually, so we've got a bit more space, but if they want to move it in this direction, we can close them in the corner. Okay, so having that option is really good for us, because we just can stay safe. So we don't even need to take too much risk. We're actually going to not move our full distance. And just move back here. Slightly, again, away from the wall this time, because that's the actual correct choice. Now, because we're trying to keep our Maximus alive, and we don't worry too much about their Maximus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move really aggressively forwards, but I'm going to deploy a Deadeye over here. So the reason I place Deadeye here is it might draw attention away from our captain, which here they should start going for our captain. They can't get to Maximus, they can't really kill our Deadeye, so they need to really start putting pressure on our captain. But we're going to start being able to chip away at their crew. We want to get an advantage in terms of how many units on the battlefield. If they spin here without Plink, that's a mistake. With Plink I can see that being reasonable. So Plink is a not unreasonable approach for this, but we don't know that they've got that yet. So if it's not the case, we can just move back, shoot, move again, and try and just keep away from what we now know is Teutonia.
Oh, I forgot my
Okay, so Maximus is going to... Yep, he's got the 1 damage. He can move again. Well, he didn't move in the first place, so a bit of a loss on that front. But the interesting thing here is if they stay in range of Extilior getting an attack in, then we just move Extilior in and use Deadeye to shoot elsewhere. But if not, yeah, if they move this way, we just use Deadeye. I'm not quite sure where they should move. If I were them, I would be moving this way so we don't have to get a free shot. But there's a good chance we might be able to get in range with Extilior here. And that's what we'll do if we can. And then... So, can we do it? We can. So this is basically free for us. What we're going to do is we're going to move just as far back as possible away from Detonia. Okay, we did get 1 shot. We just want to move distance here because they don't actually have any ranged units. But what we're going to do is we're just going to place the orbital here so that they have to move into this if they want to damage us. And then this is the situation where I actually think Snareling could be potentially quite good because we've got a good range set up here and we can just try and hold things back a little. So what I want to do is go Snareling, next turn probably play Blindsider Eztli followed by Florio and just try and keep the game at arm's length basically. Can we get a good line of sight? We can get one here. So Detonia might come into this. It's almost worth taking 3 on Detonia to hit all these units, but I don't think they're going to quite have the range. Maybe they do. Actually no, probably not. Okay, so this is where they start hiding, which is when we can start playing things like Stitchy, Florio. We can make good use of our stim burst here as well if we need to keep running away. And we can just set up the long game as quick as possible. Okay, yeah, so they're just going to move out of the way. So our turn is going to be just trying to apply damage onto Detonia from a distance and running away again. If I were them, if they have Florio in their list, now's a good time to actually just bank it up, and then they can start looking towards a Florio earlier than we can, and that can really turn the tide of things here. Because if they place a Florio down next turn, we're not going to be able to place it till the turn after. We're going to start losing tempo, and we're going to be forced to be more aggressive. Okay, crankbait. Interesting. So crankbait basically means that we're going to want to start moving in on that. And looking at how much cinder we need to save, it's not a ton. So we can spend all our cinder this turn if we want to, and it might even just be Stitchy McPatchy and Shrapnel. So I think this depends on what hits we get with other things. So Detonia can just shoot. We don't need to waste our cinder on anything. I mean, that's a huge crit. That changes the clock massively. There we go. So then if we get... Okay, so we can't actually get a line here with Snareling. So if we get this hit with Snareling, though, we're putting ourselves slightly more vulnerable to Detonia. So I'm going to move down this way to get a longer distance between these. But if we hit this... Okay, we did. That's perfect. We can just go for a quick hit here, which puts us in a great position. And then we can choose how we want to follow up here. So personally, I think I'm just going to go with... You know what, Detonia's kind of awkward, but I kind of just want to go with Shrapnel and just play Shrapnel here to stop their Extilior getting into us. And we can... who had a move left? There we go. So we're just going to split up here and leave Detonia with as poor targeting as possible. She probably can't get to Maximus. That crit was big because it saved us 2 cinder, so it just meant we got to play Shrapnel instead of Stitchy McPatchy. So big crit onto the crankbait. They are still in a fairly good spot. We've not lost a unit yet though, and we can start using Snareling onto their Extilior to try and start getting a bit of awkwardness here. So this is, again, this is 2 cinder for 1 damage. Okay, nano shield's good for them. So that just means we leave that for a turn apart from maybe Snareling. Yep, so we take 1. We could take another one here from the hit, potentially another 2 from the swing. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm not sure about the recall. I think the recall's probably a mistake. It just... Basically, they didn't lose any health. They hadn't lost any health, so it kind of just... doesn't make sense to me. All they're going to do is put the same unit slightly further back, and that's not going to do anything particularly to save it. Yeah. So they've also just left themselves vulnerable to Snareling here, and that's absolutely what we're going to do. So we're going to stim burst all of these, and we're going to start just pushing for Snareling onto Extilior. 92% is all we need. Perfect.
Meditating.
So there's not really many good shots onto Detonia here, but we might as well just take what we have. We'll move Deadeye over here. Just again take what we can.
It's okay. It's okay.
None of this particularly matters. So
Careful,
we should have a
Max.
reasonably high chance here. There we go, we got one. Because we got the 40% accuracy last turn, so it's not as bad. Oh no, we didn't do that. So we just got lucky there. Here I'm going to deploy Florio just back here. In fact, Florio should be slightly further forward to make sure we've got as much range as possible. So we'll go back here. And Extilior can just move. Where can theirs move? So we can just move to about here. So we're just basically setting up for next turn. We're in a solid spot here. They can potentially kill one of these. In fact, they can kill Snareling. So, oh no, they can't because Extilior's stuck. That was it. I knew there was a reason I did this. I was thinking to myself, have I just left Snareling dead to the damage? But Extilior is stuck in place. So they've only got Detonia to deal damage this turn. And we can start churning out damage using Snareling to keep Extilior stunned. I think our game plan is going to be whatever they play, we're going to try and kill Detonia and that, and leave them in a position where they have to have... Basically, they have no outs. We want to leave them so they're snared every single turn, so get Snareling in close enough for 100% accuracy, kill their units that can deal damage, and just keep this situation going, and every turn have enough to kill their new units. So we need to deal 6 damage here. We've got 3 from Florio, 2 here, and we just need 1 out of any of these 3, and we're in a really good spot. I don't know if they're going to have enough Cinder to play anything else, but the most important thing we're going to do here is just... Well, in fact, we might as well shoot first. There we go, we've got 1 in. So Snareling is the most important. We want to be outside of this just to get the 100% hit. We will bombard over here. If we can get a Maximus shot here, that would be better, because it saves us a bit of... Yeah, it saves us some inefficient damage. This is the lowest difference we got, so we might as well Ozo's here and shoot that. Florio can just move slightly forward, I guess. Extilior can move over here. Who was it? Shrapnel hasn't moved yet. Shrapnel can stay there, and we're just going to orbital. Just to... Basically what we also want to do is orbital as close to our units as we can, so that they can't just place anything else down straight into range for free. Oh, got a little bit of a freeze there. There we go. So we should be able to kill our opponent next turn. We've got them snared. We've pretty much got everything we could want in this situation. We've not actually lost a unit yet, so I feel like this is one of those games where, again, I feel sorry for my opponent. They've come against someone experienced in the game when they're not. Okay, so we're not necessarily dead next turn. So they're not necessarily dead next turn, but we're still in a really good spot here. We've got, what's this? So 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can actually kill this, and then we've potentially got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 damage to go on here. No matter what we do, I'm still going to be trying to snare Extilior. I'm not going to be trying to snare Jailbreak. They can play more units, but we've got all the follow-up we need. And again, we've left it in a position where they can't easily deploy near our units without putting it in orbital, so behind is fine. We're absolutely fine with behind. Shield of Hope, that's fine. So they're going to take 3, then they're going to take 1.
Almost time.
Stim Burst is probably great on these units now, just because we can get better angles. So this is the must. There's no world in which we don't want to do that. Detonia can just pop in. Not Detonia, Deadeye. For those 2. Maybe we've actually deployed slightly inefficiently here, but get Maximus in.
Hey, you welcome.
I mean, if we hit this onto Extilior, they're just dead. We did miss. So that was a pretty bad miss, but... Does that hit Shrapnel? I don't think it does. There we go. So we can bombard these, and then hopefully... There we go, move in Extilior. And just smack this. Perfect. So, we did come against 3 level 0 opponents, so, again, this was always going to go fairly well. But I think we can see, you know, that the list has quite a few options there. We didn't need to use Quetzalli, for example, which against a more experienced player, we'd absolutely need to do so. And like I've said, I'm not the best at figuring out when to sort of turn with Extilior, so I think a lot of the time the Extilior list is sort of when to decide to go all in. You have to weigh up how much damage is coming back at you versus how much you could deal, and I think that's not a skill that I've mastered yet. It's something that's quite important, and that's why I think having Stitchy can make those longer games where people aren't used to significant healing, especially not early on, can really make it insurmountable. So all in all, I think Extilior's got a lot more legs than he used to. I mean, he has 4, but that's not the point. I think he's just got a lot more power, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. I didn't think I'd say that, but I've always loved Asteron's axe. Like, they've always been the ones I've enjoyed the most, and Extilior's actually finally getting to a point where it's nearly comparable. So, really happy to have that. I've actually got our little Extilior portrait just because it took so long to get it, so we've got that sort of set up at the moment. All in all, a fun list. I'd recommend giving this sort of thing a play with. If you've got ideas as to what you think could make a big difference, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. I want to get better at Extilior. I need all the help I can get, so please, please, please do send those ideas my way. If you liked the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and most importantly, have a good day.